Okay, let's just dive right in. Today in this explainer, we're tearing apart a seriously complex, intense, and, well, honestly, kind of chaotic piece of Russian media. It's this massive narrative claiming to expose a global conspiracy that supposedly goes back centuries. We're not here to get lost in all that noise, though. Instead, we're going to dissect the absolute anatomy of this narrative. We want to see exactly how the creator builds their argument, what they pass off as evidence, and the really fascinating psychological hooks they use to keep their audience glued to the screen.
To keep us on track through all this layered source material, we've got a pretty straightforward roadmap. We'll start with the core premise, then look at the alleged social tactics, the geopolitical and territorial goals, and then, my personal favorite part, a truly bizarre commercial interruption. Finally, we'll cover the historical justifications and the big call to action.
All right, part 1, the core premise, specifically the 1994 Menachem Mendel Schneerson speech.
So this entire narrative basically hinges on one specific thing, an alleged 1994 speech that outlines a covert plot to systematically destroy Slavic populations. And to make this feel like some epic, world-altering event, the creator builds out this wild timeline. They literally link ancient historical grievances, like the 10th century defeat of the Khazar Khaganate, straight to modern politics. They land firmly in 2014, claiming the Maidan protests in Ukraine weren't just protests, but the geopolitical acceleration of a 1,000-year-old ancient vengeance. I mean, it's a massive leap.
And to really sell this idea, the creator uses incredibly extreme us versus them language. Just look at this quote. They aren't framing this as your standard political disagreement, right? They're explicitly calling it a tactical struggle for survival. It completely cranks up the stakes for the viewer. By pushing this kind of rhetoric, the narrative creates this alternate reality where everyday existence is literally a battleground.
Moving on to part 2, the alleged social tactics or the claims of societal engineering and division.
So you might be wondering, how is this covert war supposedly being fought? Well, from the inside out. The creator points to everyday, mundane items like alcohol, vapes, and chemical food additives, and outright brands them as gene weapons designed for biological degradation. Add to that a supposedly coordinated effort to destroy the traditional family to plummet birth rates, shut down educational institutes, and artificially stoke extreme nationalism just to keep Ukraine and Russia divided. It's a tactic that paints the viewer's daily reality as an active, invisible war zone. To make this incredibly sprawling conspiracy easier to swallow, the creator sets up a very strict binary. On one side, you have this romanticized native elite associated with the Soviet era who are supposedly defending the people and driving progress. And on the other, a hostile, installed cosmopolitan elite who supposedly control the media, the arts, and the government just to subvert national interests. It's a classic, but highly effective way to sow absolute distrust in modern institutions.
Okay, part 3, geopolitical and territorial goals, the blueprint for a modern new Khazaria.
Now, according to the source, all of this societal sabotage is just the prep work for a massive land grab. The ultimate prize? Total physical control over Russia's vast natural wealth. The theory claims Russia is targeted because it holds roughly 70% of the world's raw materials and up to 80% of open global oil and gas reserves. The argument is that as Western resources dry up, capturing this specific territory isn't just about greed, it's framed as a matter of absolute survival for the global elite. Bizarrely enough, global warming actually plays a starring role in this theory too. The claim is that as the climate heats up and deserts expand, this master plan involves the elite turning southern regions like the Kuban and Rostov into their own subtropical havens. Meanwhile, native Slavic populations would supposedly be forcefully relocated to frozen northern reservations. It's an explicit, deliberate comparison to the historical displacement of Native Americans, designed to evoke a really visceral reaction from the audience.
There is even a literal price tag attached to all this. The creator claims the US is secretly orchestrating a deal to buy the entirety of Siberia for exactly $3 billion. And get this, it's supposedly tucked inside a 20-year payment plan hidden within a larger $200 billion trade structure. It's an incredibly specific and completely unsubstantiated financial detail, but throwing out exact numbers like that is a trick designed purely to make the conspiracy sound like credible insider knowledge.
Which brings us to part 4, the commercial interruption, monetizing the message.
Now, this is where we get a fascinating look into the realities of internet monetization, because the tonal whiplash here is just staggering. Literally right after detailing a harrowing plot of global genocide, forced relocation, and the sale of half a continent, the creator abruptly hits pause to sell you things.
You are taken straight from imminent societal collapse into this enthusiastic pitch for atherosclerosis treatments, a live raw pet food that'll supposedly cure your dog, some joint healing gel, and of all things, an odor blocker for spilled gasoline. It is a stunning, almost comical structural shift.
So how on earth do they justify this transition? Well, by directly leveraging the audience's loyalty. They ask for a minute of honest advertising to fund their supposed truth-telling project. It's a textbook example of alternative media funding. They're literally weaponizing the intense fear and trust they've just built up in their viewers to move everyday consumer products.
All right, part 5, historical and modern justifications, validating the conspiracy. Once we're past the commercials, the creator pulls us right back into this dense web of proof. They make the highly controversial claim that during World War II and the Holocaust, global elites intentionally sacrificed their own people to advance this long-term plan. Then they point to 2014, citing both the Maidan protests in Kyiv and a mass prayer gathering of Hasidic Jews in Manhattan as undeniable synchronized proof that this ancient plan is now in full swing. And in one of the absolute most glaring logical leaps in the whole presentation, the creator actually relies on a clip from a fictional movie to cement their historical claims. They play this extended, dramatic scene of actors portraying elite ruthlessness, stop the clip, and literally ask the audience if this matches reality. They are using scripted Hollywood dialogue as core historical evidence to validate their entire worldview. It's completely wild.
Finally, part 6. The final call to action, engaging the audience.
Having laid out the conspiracy, the dire stakes, and, the pet food ads, the creator finally tells their audience what they actually need to do to survive. And the demands are super specific. Form demographic alliances, reject the mainstream media's matrix of lies, actively resist modern migration, and crucially, maintain strict sobriety. Remember earlier when alcohol was categorized as a gene weapon? Well, because of that, staying sober is framed here as a literal act of warfare against the elite. At the very end of the broadcast, the creator leaves their viewers with this haunting question: is there a way out of this disaster? But after deconstructing the anatomy of this narrative, we really have to ask ourselves an even bigger question. In an age driven by algorithms, how deeply does this type of heavily structured, fear-driven media shape the very reality of the people who consume it? Something to think about.